Hello, friend. This is Ryan Hicks of TalkToProfit.com, and today I'll talk to you about your DNA and does it limit your vibration? Many people can recognize, they can see even in their children or people they've seen over the years, even growing up in a family, seeing other siblings, that there is a certain style and preference and mannerisms and behavior that people come out with from the womb. This isn't even chosen. There's just even as a little child, the way they cry or what they cry about or the way they like to lay, there's all kinds of little preferences and quirks that are distinct to that individual. Even amongst twins, there are things that are different among the two. And so many people have presumed that, well, we're just fated to a certain vibrational state. We're just fated genetically to behave a certain way, to believe a certain way, to think a certain way. And this has been propagated by church leaders too, who act as if someone was born into a Christian family, they're somehow Christians. And I've had people who are ignorant of the faith say, well, you just grew up in a Christian family, thinking that anyone who's a Christian must have grown up in a Christian family, which of course I didn't. But that is kind of an ingrained belief that people have, that people just kind of follow whatever they're born into, and they really don't have a whole choice in the matter. It's just fate. It's just destiny. And if you get the Calvinists, they're talking about how it's God's pre-decreed will. Everything that happens was decreed from all eternity past. And of course, none of this stuff is true. You have a choice in the matter. God's not decreeing evil. He's not decreeing you be miserable. He's not decreeing that you have to suffer through life and you can never make any changes. Otherwise, there'd be no point in saying repent and believe the gospel. You can repent. You can change your mind about something and make different choices. Truly change, not just say, oh, I repent, and then go out and do the same thing again, but truly change. And one of the ways to do this, which I stress all the time, is to focus on the goodness of God. You can't focus on sin and expect not to keep sinning. That sin consciousness keeps you in sin, keeps you bound, because that's not the truth. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. When you focus on God, you focus on His goodness, that's where your mind keeps going back to. You will change any genetic quirks. You'll disable bad tendencies that may be in your genetics, because people talk about, well, I have a predisposition to alcoholism. Well, don't drink. See, there's certain things you don't have to do. If you believe that you have some genetic predisposition to behave a certain way that is counter to your good and counter to other people's good, then don't do that. The person with a predisposition to alcoholism, for example, who never takes up drinking, will never become a drunk. And this has been seen in many families where the children unfortunately grow up in an abusive household with a drunk father or drunk mother. And one child goes out and becomes a drunk. The thing they hated, they go out and do. The other child never takes a single drink in their lives. Now, you may say that both could have been predisposed to alcoholism, but one made a choice to not do it, to not drink at all. And this goes with anything. If you're going throughout your day and you're sour, you're angry, you're moody, you're grumpy, that's a choice you're making. Now, you can say, well, my mom was always this way, or my dad, they were this way too, or my grandfather, whatever. That may be true, but you have a choice in the matter. Unless you just choose to believe in fatalism, which is still a choice in your own mind. You can believe fatalism or determinism or you're predestined to be awful and settle for that. But the reality is you can repent and believe. You can choose a better path. You can choose to think about the goodness of God. You can choose each and every day to think about things that are lovely and of good report. Or you can choose to just go with the flow and Just do what you've always done, or do what you observed other people doing when you were a child. And then blame it on fate, blame it on genetics, blame it on your struggle as a child. But in the end, while those things may have had some effect on you, and I'm not dismissing that, I'm not dismissing that you may have had it harder than other people. It may have been more of a struggle for you. It may be harder for you to think about positive things. That may all be true, but you can do it. It's a matter of choice. You can choose to keep doing what you're doing if you're doing the wrong thing, or if you're doing the right thing. You don't have to then go from positive to negative either. You can choose to continue and build yourself up in the faith, edify yourself, and keep focusing on the good. And when a negative thought comes in, when a thought that is contrary to the will of God for your life, which is goodness and blessing and peace, you can choose to think about something good. Or you can give in to that. But you're not genetically fated to behave a certain way. You may have things that lean you towards something, but it's a matter of choice whether you will be the person who just goes along with that, blindly chooses to allow that to be your life, or you choose your life. You choose what you're going to focus on. You choose the issues of life that you're going to experience. And that, my friend, is something you have genetically within you, in your power, right here and now, by the grace of God, to choose. Everyone has that ability. It could be harder for you. I'm not dismissing that. But you can still do it. And you can't blame it being harder for you than other people to focus on good things and to be in a high vibrational state. You can't blame that on genetics, because that's still your choice. It may be harder for you. That's your cross to bear. Now, what are you going to do? Are you going to whine about it? Are you going to talk, oh, my parents? There are people living awful lives, absolutely miserable and depressed, and all they can do is go back and blame their parents, blame things that happened 20, 30 years ago, instead of moving on. Those things may have been hard. They may have been horrible. But each day you renew that misery, renew that horror by choosing to think about it. Or you can say, you know what, that happened in the past. I forgive those people and I move on. That is so far away from me as the East is from the West. It's like it was a different person. And I focus on the good. I focus on the goodness of God, and I walk in that goodness. I walk in that newness of life, and I don't think about that at all. And that doesn't limit me, and that does not define me. I'm defined by what I choose each and every day. I can choose to be defined by that, by thinking about it and focusing on it and talking about it. Or I can choose to think about the good and talk about the good, talk about the things I want, talk about the goodness of God, talk about the great things I'm going to experience today, and then live that out. My friend, you have a choice. DNA is not determining that you have to be a certain way. It may make it harder for you. It may create certain predispositions that if you give in to something negative, it opens a whole Pandora's box, so to speak, of negativity in your life, but you never have to do that in the first place. My friend, choose the good. Focus on the good. Follow the good, and you will experience a great and glorious life. And anything in your life that you may feel that was a hindrance, or you may feel you were born into, you can change, improve, and make yourself be that high vibration person is walking in the goodness and grace of God and is experiencing it each and every day. I pray this was a blessing for you. May God bless you richly.